Thank you very much for asking me to say a few words of welcome. And so the very first word is welcome. Bienvenue, benvenuti. It's wonderful to see all of you gathered in this church for this Divine Renovation Conference. As I listened to Father James and particularly to the witnesses, the image that came to mind was what we do at the vigil of Easter, when we ritually light our little candles from the Paschal candle, and you go from one to the other, to the other, to the other, and the next thing you know is you've got this church that's fully lit and fully alive. That's what I saw in the witnessing of these 4 missionary disciples that stood up here and shared with you their experience. And so I want to thank you for that. I want to thank James for all that he's doing. And he spoke to us about compassion and how that has to do with what you feel in your gut. Well, what you sometimes feel in your gut is anxiety and fear and nervousness. And I'm feeling that right now. And what I'm saying to you isn't what I've written down. But it's an amazing thing to have this gathering in this Archdiocese. I'm not sure that there are too many bishops anywhere in this country, or perhaps in the various countries that many of you come from, where 600 people gather to come together and learn what's behind the book. Divine Renovation is a book that all of you have read, and if you haven't read it, you probably will. But it's a book. Just like the gospel comes to us in a book. But it stays a book if you don't get hold of the experience that's behind the book. And so your time here in the next few days will be an opportunity to see what's behind all of this divine renovation business. And all of us are facing the challenge of trying to make our church something that can speak to our world in terms that will touch the hearts of people. That's the reason why you've come from all over the world. Because you're looking for answers to the question, but what are we supposed to do and how are we going to do it? And perhaps maybe struggling with what can we do? And I think you discover some of those possibilities and options in the experience that has come together, not only in the written word, but in the living reality of the community that gathers here in this parish. It's mind-boggling for a bishop to have something like this going on. I came in, wasn't able to be here with you for Mass, but I came in when all of you had just finished, and I was overwhelmed by 600 people going outside for a cup of coffee. But I saw a symbolism in that. Because the point is not for us to be in this building. The point is for us to get the hell out of this building. We all have holy doors all over the world for people to come in. But we have to also use those holy doors so that we can get out and be the missionary disciples that the world needs at this time. And so I only have 4 minutes, and my reputation locally is that I could never speak to just 4 minutes, but I'm going to try. And so I'm going to end with this simple expression: welcome. Welcome to this Archdiocese of Halifax, Yarmouth. Halifax relates to the Scottish part, and James is a good representative. Yarmouth reminds us that we have a significant French-speaking element that makes up this church. Alors, à tous ceux et celles qui parlent français, qui sont venus d'un peu partout, c'est un plaisir pour moi de vous accueillir chez nous dans cette église locale qui a ses problèmes, qui a ses défis, mais qui veut faire ce que le Seigneur nous demande de faire. Et cela, c'est de partager la bonne nouvelle à tous ceux et celles que nous rencontrons en mission. Bienvenue à tous ceux qui sont ici d'Europe et particulièrement ceux qui parlent le français. And so to the rest of you, welcome from the States, from Australia, from all over the world. Enjoy your visit in this part of our country. And may God bless your efforts, not only while you're here, but more importantly, may God bless your efforts when you return to your home parishes. Thank you, welcome, merci, and we'll see you later.
I've been looking forward to introducing our next speakers. It's a great pleasure for me to be able to introduce Nicky and Sila Lee. They are founders of the Marriage and Marriage Prep course, married for 39 years, about to have their 40th anniversary just next month. But here's what I found interesting. I was lucky enough, I was at supper with them last night, and I said to Nicky, well, how do you want me to introduce you tomorrow? And then he told me some stories, and he told me some more stories, and they were all very interesting. I'm not gonna share any of them with you. What I will share, however, was how fascinating it was to watch the two of them together. They have that body language that two people who've been together for a long time, and they're able to communicate with nonverbal cues. It was fascinating to watch the two of them, and especially near the end of the night, Silla looked up, and I think she just looked at her watch, and she looked at Nicky and just smiled. That was the cue for Nicky. It's time to go home. We have to talk tomorrow. It's clear to me that they are both a gift to each other, and to us, I think they are a gift from God. We have a short video that we can show that explains some of what they've done around their marriage course.
The support of my family has, across the generations, been beyond measure.
When you're young and getting married, you don't know what you're signing up for, but you're signing up for a big job.
Every wedding, then, sends a message to people. It's two people declaring something, not only about themselves, but about what they most deeply believe.
The secret to a happy marriage is to not take advice from celebrities about marriage.
Someone told me the other day you're meant to praise your children 7 times more often than you criticize them. And try that in a day, and it's quite a tough one.
Go to sleep! Don't you mess with... Go to close your... You have to remind them how it works. Close your eyes!
It's love. I feel it when I look at my child. I feel it when I look at my husband. It's God.
Lee.
Actually, just before we start, I got notification that there was an issue with parking in the shopping center next door. Is that still an issue? Anyone know? Apparently there was trucks that couldn't get in, so... Okay. Well, we'll just forget about that. I guess it's not an issue anymore. Welcome. I'm just so, Nicky and Silla, I'm just so honored and thrilled that you're here with us, that you've made the journey to be here.
The honor is all ours. And I mean, we want to say, just before we say anything else, it is so lovely to have been welcomed so warmly by Father James and everybody here at St. Benedict's. We just feel so excited to be family together, to feel the welcome of brothers and sisters in Christ. We've had the great pleasure of Father James coming to visit us in London many, many times and bringing lots of people from St. Benedict's. And it's just so thrilling for us to come here. And we want to say, Nicky and I have been so enriched by our friendship with our Catholic brothers and sisters. And we have met many Catholic brothers and sisters all around the world. And it's been a real, real joy. And we love working together. So it's absolutely our pleasure to be here.
So, Nicky and Silla, I'd like to...
This is very dangerous. We only have one mic.
I know, but
between us.
If a fight breaks out, we'll step in.
But I'm going to be really good and hand it to my husband.
Oh, right.
I'm going to frame this question very, very intentionally. Who is Nicky and Sila Lee?
Well, can I just take you back a little bit? Silla and I met when we were teenagers. I was 18, Silla was just 17. We were on holiday, we were next door holiday cottages, and we both fell madly in love with each other without knowing what the other one felt. Well, eventually it came out. We come from non-church-going families, and after we'd been going out for a year and a half, we went up to university and we were in different places. And I started to hear for the first time about a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
So when you say you were from non-church going families, was there any faith background in there at all? A sense of God or anything like that?
Well, it's all right. I know the signs, as we heard already.
Well, my father had a very strong traditional faith. But not my mum, and we weren't really churchgoers. But I definitely believed in God, but I thought, well, that can wait till I'm about 85, and I might need to focus a little bit more on it at 85.
And my family were regular churchgoers. Every Christmas day we went to church, but not the rest of the year, ever. So, no, we came from families where we hadn't grown up with any real understanding of a personal faith, what that meant. And when I started to hear about it at university, I was intrigued by it. Admittedly, I didn't tell Silla anything about this journey of faith, that, this sort of exploration I was on, because I didn't want her to jump to conclusions. I wanted to work it out carefully in my own mind. But after about 5 months, I got to a place where I thought, I think this is all true, and therefore I need to do something about it. And so then I got Silla to come and to listen to some talks, and it was on February the 14th, 1974, we both gave our lives to Christ. And the first person we went to tell was my great friend, a friend that I'd had since I was 13 years old, Nicky Gumbel, who runs the Alpha course, has developed it, and we...
So Nicky, you are... People who have seen a bit of Alpha and heard some of Nicky Gumbel talks, you're probably starting to put it together that this is indeed the other Nicky. I understand the two of you became Nicky's project. He had to save you from Christianity.
Right. He was horrified when he heard that we had become Christians. And so he set about seeking to rescue. Nicky's always been such a great friend. And at this particular point, he thought he had to rescue us from being caught up in something he thought would ruin our lives. And so he started to explore Christianity in order to rescue us. But then, 48 hours later, he gave his life to Christ as well. And now we work together. It's just amazing.
And I remember from some of these stories, for those of us who've been involved in Alpha for a number of years, some of these stories are legends, but that famous story about Nicky praying out loud with his friends, that was the two of you, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the first time.
Tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, I do remember, Silla and I had sort of prayed a bit together. And if I could just say, one of the, while I feared that God would sort of come in between us, what we experienced was our relationship, we gained a new freedom and a new depth in our own friendship, our love with each other.
Can I say, because it is significant to the whole story, the backstory, that actually it was 2.5 years between the time that we gave our lives to Christ, came to faith, and when we got married. And in those 2.5 years, we learned so much about the goodness of God and his plans for how to love. How we learned a different way of loving. We learned that he loved us unconditionally, and he could give us what we needed to love one another in the way he wanted us to love one another. So that was a hugely significant and big learning time for us.
So back to your question with Nicky. Yeah, we had prayed together a bit, but Nicky never prayed with anybody else. And I remember the first time the three of us sat down together, I could see that after about 30 seconds, Nicky thought this was probably enough. He was sort of drenched in sweat, finding it really, really difficult. But he got through it, and that was the first time he prayed out loud with anybody else.
You've already talked about the impact of coming to know the Lord on your relationship, and behind you is a sign. The marriage course we just heard. I've seen a glimpse of something wonderful that has gone over the world. Where did this begin? What was the passion within you guys?
Well, just on the sort of historical story, in 1985, we came on staff. Nicky was ordained, and we came on staff at Holy Trinity Brompton in central London. And the first thing we were asked to do was to take on running marriage preparation for the couples in the church who were getting married. And you may have seen on that video, it said in 1985, marriage preparation started in a home, and that was our home. We had 3 couples who came, and we prepared them for marriage. And we developed then a 5-session marriage preparation course, which was totally out of, by that stage we'd been married 9 years, and it came out of what we had learned and what made the difference in our marriage at a very practical level. Everything is based on Christian biblical principles, but the courses are very, very practical. And we then developed, about a few years later, the marriage course, because we saw the need not only for marriage preparation before marriage, but actually a huge need for couples to be able to invest again and come back again in those early years after they're married, when the rose-tinted spectacles have come off and you see your partner as they really are. And
why were you looking at me at that moment, my darling? That knowing look.
Come on the marriage course and you'll find out a lot about our marriage. But what was exciting was, on that first course, the 3 couples, they were from within the church. Very quickly what started to happen, people would ask their friends, and they'd say, could my friend and her fiancé come on the course? But they're not churchgoers. And we said, yes, of course, as long as, you know, they know that what position we're coming from. And that's what we started to see, that people from outside the church wanted to come and learn about marriage and be prepared. And now that's what we have seen, both with the marriage preparation course, the marriage courses, and the parenting courses. We went on, after developing the marriage course, at the same time to be developing a parenting children course and a parenting teenagers. Oh, we haven't said, Nicky and I have 4 children. They're now all grown up. 3 of them are married. We have 8 grandchildren, and they are our passion, and we love them a lot. But that's the sort of history. Nicky, back to you on the passion.
I'm wondering, when did when did you begin to get that inkling of how this passion could shape a dream of what could be?
I think God just broke our hearts, really, for the state of family life that we saw all around us and we read and birthed in us get a passion to see marriage at the heart of family life. And we saw that, you know, in the UK, half of all 16-year-olds will have seen their parents' relationship split up. And that breaks our hearts. And I think over the years, as we've prayed, that is what God has put upon our hearts. And we just think, it doesn't have to be like that. And I think what we've seen again and again through marriage preparation, through the marriage course, is that with a bit of help, it can be very different. Couples can learn how to build a strong marriage. They can learn how to love each other.
And we believe passionately, we have huge hope for change in couples' relationships. And we know in our own relationship how we can change, and that always makes things better as we change, and as we change ourselves rather than trying to change our partner. And that is what we feel passionate to share with others. I just tell you one story of a couple who came on the marriage course with us in London, and they'd been married 3 years. They had a little girl about 1.5 years old, and they'd been separated for 9 months. We didn't know any of this until well after they'd finished the course.
We ought to just say that when we set up the course, it was always just with private conversations for the couple. So
yes.
We talk about aspects of marriage, but it's those conversations that are actually the most important part of the sessions. And as a result of that privacy, we don't know why any couple are
So
there.
there's a talk given, because we've run the marriage course here in this parish as well as the parenting course, and I ran it in my previous parish as well with great success. But there's a talk, and then we would set up our gym. We did it in a gym, and we basically gave couples a candlelight supper, so the conversation is private. It's a private conversation.
That's really important. So it's like a date night. It's like going out for a date between the two of you, but you have a bit of input and then lots of discussion between you as a couple. But this couple, Richard and Zoe, they came there. She persuaded him to come on the course as a last resort to get back together. And they came. Their communication had completely broken down. They didn't know what each other felt. And that turned around on the course. And we came to realize they decided during the course to get back together. And by the end of the course, they did. And he said, I didn't think we had a future together, but now I know we do. And we're going to be doing it together and doing it as a family. They then had a second child, and they have now moved, interestingly, to the west coast of America. He's become a worship leader in a church out there. And this is 8 years on. But do you know, there are hundreds and thousands of Richard and Zoes out there in your communities, in our communities. And with just a very little help and support at a practical grassroots level, their marriage can be changed, transformed, redeemed, and saved.
And this is a key thing, because, Silla, you're telling us to think about out there. And in our tradition, when we hear marriage preparation, marriage course, we think internally, okay, this is something we need to do with our people, which is true. But you've seen God do amazing things through these tools to actually reach and serve the unchurched and use it as almost a kind of pre-evangelistic tool. Tell us a little bit about what you've seen there.
Well, it is exactly that. And it's because I think the couples enjoy the experience. They enjoy coming to marriage preparation. That's why they talk to their friends about it, and then their friends want to come. And that's why they want to come back to do the marriage course as well. And on the courses, we talk about the difference our Christian faith makes in our marriage. And we say, if you want to explore that further, there's another course that we run here. It's called Alpha. And couples will come from doing marriage preparation or the marriage course on to do Alpha. Or the other way around, we get lots of people coming on Alpha who need to then work out their relationship. So then they come on to do marriage course or marriage preparation course. Can I tell you one story about, I know we have some French people here. There's a couple called Olivier and Valerie, and they were great friends with the person who ran Alpha for all of France. And their friend was trying to persuade them to do Alpha, but Olivier said he was an atheist. He'd been an atheist since he was 16. His wife Valerie was a lapsed Catholic. And then they moved to within 500, do you use yards or meters here? Are you metric or 500
meters?
Okay, 500 meters. Let's keep it that. From our church, HTB in London. So Mark thought, now they'll go to Alpha. Not interested. Then he said, they run a marriage course. Would you be interested in doing that? And Olivier, he's a great family man. Actually, they had a great marriage, but he thought, that sounds interesting. They came to do the marriage course. They loved it. And after that, they started to come to church on Sundays. And they had 3 small children. Children love the children's church. And Olivier and Valerie kept listening to these Alpha testimonies, just like with Flavia and the others earlier. Kept listening. And then he thought, after about a year of this, he thought, do you know, it'd be really interesting to have a proper argument with these Christians. I'll do Alpha, because I know I'm right. Anyway, he went on Alpha, and on Alpha, he gave his life to Christ. And Olivier and Valerie are now back in Paris. They're serving their parish and actually serving many other parishes in France with Alpha and the marriage courses.
In terms of that idea of this tool serving even people who have not yet come to believe in the world, something very interesting happened in China. I saw that up on the screen. Something about your course got into China. How did this happen?
That was well beyond what we could ever have imagined. But, as with Alpha, as with all that you're doing, it was just the Holy Spirit blowing it around the world. And we had this open